If you are over 60, this is the water mistake that quietly ages your blood vessels every single morning. Most seniors make it without thinking. It feels harmless, it even feels healthy. But inside your arteries, it sets off a small chain reaction that stiffens vessels, it lowers nitric oxide and drains the energy you thought came from getting older. You probably already know the habit. You wake up, you walk to the kitchen, you fill a tall glass with cold water, you drink it on an empty stomach. Maybe you drink 2 glasses, maybe you gulp them down. Then you wait for the morning energy to arrive. It does not arrive. You feel a little wet, a little cool, but not really refreshed. And somewhere around mid-morning, the fog rolls back in, the hands stay cold, the legs feel heavy. And you wonder why. Here is why. After 60, something quiet happens inside your blood vessels. The inner lining, the endothelium, gets rougher. The vessel walls lose elasticity. Nitric oxide, the chemical that tells vessels to relax, starts to fall. Reviews in cardiovascular research show that nitric oxide production declines significantly with age, contributing directly to vessel stiffening and reduced flow. Other work confirms that this decline is one of the central mechanisms behind reduced physical capacity and slower vascular response in older adults. Mechanistic studies tie the drop to reduced activity of the enzymes that synthesize nitric oxide, combined with rising oxidative stress that consumes what little nitric oxide remains. What does that mean for you in real life? When the nitric oxide signal weakens, your vessels stop relaxing easily. They stiffen, the heart has to push harder. The brain, the legs, the hands all feel the difference in very ordinary ways. Cold hands, heavy legs, afternoon fog, that strange fatigue after almost nothing. And decades of vascular aging research consistently show that arterial stiffness rises sharply after the 6th decade, especially in the large central vessels like the aorta. Now imagine something different. Imagine waking in 7 days with warmer hands, a clearer head and steadier energy through the day. Imagine walking farther without the drag, thinking faster, feeling less puffy by evening. That is the goal of this video. Not a magic drink, not a miracle powder, just one small fix to the water habit almost every senior gets wrong. And stay with me, because near the end I will show you the simplest detail that decides whether the fix actually works. Miss it, and even the corrected habit can quietly disappoint you. I am Dr. Sofia, and I work with adults over 60 every week. The simple truth is this. After 60, your kidneys handle fluid differently. Your vessels respond more slowly. Your cells hold on to inflammation longer than they used to. What you drink can either support your blood vessels or do almost nothing for them. After 60, almost nothing is not good enough. So yes, drink water. But drink it the way your vessel walls are now asking for it. Here is the #1 water mistake most seniors make after 60. They drink cold water, in large gulps on an empty stomach, first thing in the morning. That single habit sets off a small chain reaction inside aging blood vessels that most seniors never connect to their drinks. Let us start with the temperature. Cold water on waking triggers a sympathetic reflex. Your vessels constrict. Blood shifts away from the gut. Blood pressure ticks up briefly. For younger vessels, this rebounds in minutes. For 60-plus vessels that have already lost elasticity, the rebound is slower, the constriction can linger. Research shows that older adults have measurable impairments in cold-induced vasoconstriction reflexes and in the recovery vasodilation that follows. That sounds technical, but the meaning is simple. Cold water hits your aging vessels like a short, sharp shock. They clench. They take longer to unclench. And the energy you were chasing does not arrive now the size. When you gulp a large glass of cold water in one go, your blood volume rises fast. Your vessels feel that spike. If the walls are already stiffer than they used to be, that spike shows up as a brief rise in systolic pressure, sometimes a flutter in the chest, sometimes a head rush. It also means a mid-morning trip to the bathroom because the kidneys dump the volume they cannot absorb. None of that helps aging vessels. None of that gives you the morning you were looking for. Now the empty stomach part. On an empty stomach in the early morning, the digestive system is not yet warm. Blood has not routed toward the gut. Drinking a large cold shock then pulls blood to the wrong place at the wrong time. Some clinical observations in older adults suggest that abrupt cold exposure on an empty stomach can briefly raise the workload on the heart, especially in those whose vessels have already lost elasticity. Not dramatically, not dangerously, but enough to make mornings heavier than they need to be. And here is the part most seniors do not realize. The morning vessel constriction triggered by cold water suppresses nitric oxide signaling for hours after the glass is finished. Less nitric oxide means less vessel relaxation through the day, which means the cold hands, the heavy legs, the afternoon fog, the elevated evening pressure, they are not random. They are the downstream effect of one small mistake repeated every morning for years. The mistake feels invisible because it does not hurt. Cold water feels refreshing. The gulp feels efficient. The empty stomach feels disciplined, but the cost shows up later in symptoms that look exactly like aging. The good news: the fix is so simple it will feel almost embarrassing, and it does not require a new product, an expensive powder, or a perfect diet. It requires 3 small adjustments to the water habit you already have. Let me walk you through each one in the order that matters most. First, drink room temperature water, not cold, not even cool. Room temperature. Keep a glass or bottle by your bed overnight so it is already room temperature by morning. Within 15 minutes of waking, drink a full glass slowly, not gulped, sipped. Then give your body 20 minutes before the caffeine enters the picture. That small pause lets the vessels absorb the wind before the stimulant kicks in. Why does this work? The inner lining of your vessels responds to gentle stimuli with nitric oxide release. Vessel walls damaged by age-related stiffening still respond. They just respond to softer signals, not sharp ones. Studies show that endothelial function in older adults responds well to non-stressing hydration, but struggles under sudden shocks. Room temperature water is a non-stressing stimulus. It gently tells the vessels to open. It tells the gut to wake up smoothly. It tells the kidneys to start the day's work without a jolt. Think of your morning vessels like a paper straw inside a paper tube. If the paper tube is cold and dry, the straw is stiff and brittle. Add gentle warmth at the right moment and the tube flexes again. Room temperature water at that moment is the difference. Now, the brain rest part. Cold water before digestion wakes up behaves like an alarm clock the body did not ask for. The sympathetic nervous system fires. Cortisol surges slightly, the stomach delays emptying, and the inner vessel lining, which was about to send a quiet, relaxing signal, gets covered by a constricting one instead. Room temperature water removes that alarm. It lets the nitric oxide signal lead. And here is something else. A lot of people over 60 say, "I drink plenty of water." But when you ask better questions, the picture changes. Are you drinking it cold or room temperature? Are you gulping or sipping it? Are you pairing it with movement or sitting still? That is where most plain water routines quietly fall short. So if cold hands, heavy legs, or low morning energy are on your list, the temperature shift alone is worth keeping. By the way, do you drink your morning water cold or room temperature? Write it in the comments. That single answer tells me a lot about how your mornings treat your blood vessels. Second, front-load your fluids earlier in the day. Most seniors sip too little in the first half of the day, then too much at night. They wake up thirsty, drink 1 glass, then forget about water until dinner. Then they drink 2 big glasses before bed and spend the night up for the bathroom. That pattern is the second half of the mistake, and it is just as costly as the temperature part. After 60, the kidneys handle nighttime fluid loads more slowly. That is why evening swelling often shows up around the ankles. That is why blood pressure tends to run higher in the early morning hours. Front-loading fluids is not a fad. It is a vasculature-friendly pattern. Your vessels receive volume when they are most active, and they rest quiet at night, free of unnecessary pressure. Here is the practical move. Drink your first glass of room temperature water within 15 minutes of waking. Sip steadily through the morning. Take 2 or 3 sips at every natural break. Standing up, finishing a task, walking to the next room. Aim to finish most of your day's fluid before late afternoon. Skip the giant glass before bed. That single shift takes pressure off both the heart and the kidneys, and it shows up the next morning with less puffiness, fewer nighttime bathroom trips, and a calmer blood pressure reading. Now the reset. Picture your blood vessels as adjustable tunnels between organs. They open and close all day to route blood where it is needed. With age, that routing gets clumsier. Front-loaded fluids give the tunnels steady traffic all morning instead of a flood at night, and the body uses the daytime traffic to repair, to send nutrients, to clear waste. That is why small shifts repeated daily become meaningful. Third, drink your water, then move. This is the most important step, and it is the one most seniors skip entirely. Here is why it matters. Your blood vessels are not designed to be still. They depend on the squeeze and release of the muscles, especially in the calves and the legs, to push blood back to the heart against gravity. That mechanical assist is called the muscle pump. Without it, even the best water, drunk at the perfect temperature, sits still in the system. It adds volume, but it does not improve flow. Walking, gentle stretching, calf raises, even simple standing, all activate that muscle pump. Hydration plus movement equals actual vessel signaling. Hydration alone is passive. Hydration plus movement is information. Here is what to do. After your morning room temperature glass, take a 10-minute walk, not a jog, not a workout, or stand up and do 5 minutes of slow calf raises and gentle stretching. The point is not fitness. The point is mechanical movement paired with fluid intake so the vessels receive both volume and signal at the same time. Now quick pause. How many of you walk after drinking your morning water? Be honest. Do you walk, sit, or head to a screen? Write that in the comments. I ask because one small habit often changes the whole result. Here is the brain rest part. Think of the blood vessels in your legs as small circulating stations. They sit quietly when you sit. They wake up when the muscles around them squeeze. Walk for 10 minutes after your morning water and the stations come online. Signals flow. The nitric oxide pathway completes its loop. The morning fog lifts. Nothing dramatic but very real. Now let me rank the 3 fixes, in case you want to pick where to start. The temperature shift is the most important daily win. It corrects the morning shock. The sipping pattern is the second most important. It smooths volume into the vasculature across the day. The movement pairing is third, but it is the one that makes the other 2 actually translate to nitric oxide. If you change only one thing this week, change temperature. If you change 2, add sipping. If you change all 3, you will feel the difference in 7 days. And that brings me to the open loop I planted at the start. Many seniors who fix the temperature and the timing still feel disappointed. Not because the habit is wrong but because of one detail. They drink the corrected water, then sit down for hours. The vessels receive volume but receive no mechanical signal, so the nitric oxide response stays weak, so the stiffness persists. So the morning energy never arrives. That is the detail. The drink is not the whole protocol. The movement is half the protocol. Do not drink corrected water and then sit. Drink corrected water. The muscles squeeze, the vessels push, the nitric oxide does its job. Without that squeeze, even the best glass sits still inside the system. Now, if you want small companions to support the morning water habit, here are 2 or 3 that respect aging vessels. No sugary versions, no replacements, just additions. Number 3, unsweetened coconut water in the morning. Most people think of coconut water as a beach drink. Refreshing, slightly sweet, pleasant, but not exactly serious. That is a mistake, because the real strength of coconut water is potassium, and potassium matters more with age than many people realize. Here is why. Sodium tends to pull fluid into the bloodstream. Too much of it can increase pressure inside the vessel wall. Potassium helps balance that effect. It encourages the body to let go of excess sodium. And when that balance improves, pressure often improves too. That matters if your mornings begin with swollen fingers. It matters if your blood pressure climbs after salty meals. Here is the practical move. Use unsweetened coconut water in the morning, not the sugary kind. 1 modest glass is enough. Drink it room temperature. No gulp. Sip it, then pair it with the corrected water habit. But there is a caution here. If you have kidney disease, be careful with high potassium drinks like coconut water. That is not fear, that is precision. Number 2. Unsweetened hibiscus tea across the daytime window. If you struggle with blood pressure, this is one of the most respected drinks in the natural toolbox. Not because it is trendy, because the research around it is stronger than many people expect. Multiple clinical trials and systematic reviews have found that hibiscus significantly lowers both systolic and diastolic blood pressure in adults with mild hypertension. 2 to 3 cups across the daytime window, warm or cold, is a common approach, especially if pressure tends to run high. Here is the practical move. Use hibiscus tea consistently, not randomly. 2 to 3 cups across the day is a smart approach. You can drink it warm or cold. Pair it with 1 small square of dark chocolate if you want. Since cocoa brings flavonols which also support vessel function, and if you already take medication for blood pressure or a water pill, monitor carefully. Hibiscus may add to the effect. That is good if it is planned, not good if it catches you by surprise. Number 1. Beetroot water for circulation support. This is the strongest drink on our list for one reason. Beets are rich in natural nitrates. Your body can convert those nitrates into nitric oxide, and nitric oxide is one of the key signals that tells blood vessels to open. Systematic reviews on beetroot juice supplementation have found meaningful reductions in systolic blood pressure with consistent use, and this is the same nitric oxide pathway that the corrected water habit is trying to support. So the 2 stack well. Here is the practical move. Use beet juice diluted with water or a plain powder mixed into water, no added sugar. Morning works well for many people. So does about 1 to 2 hours before a walk. If you notice a little pink in the urine later, that can happen. It is usually harmless. People panic about that, then they realize it was just the beets. Now, here is the practical framework. Use coconut water or hibiscus tea in the morning for fluid and mineral support. Use hibiscus across the daytime window, especially if pressure tends to run high. Use beetroot when you want circulation support for movement, energy, or mental sharpness. Use tart cherry water later in the day if sleep and inflammation are issues. And do not stack all the additions at full strength on the same day. That is not smarter, that is just messy. Choose the one that fits your biggest problem, then build from there. Plain corrected water comes first. The additions are second. The movement is half the protocol. Let me tie the whole thing together. The mistake is cold water, gulped on an empty stomach, first thing in the morning. That mistake stiffens vessels right when they should be relaxing. That mistake silently suppresses nitric oxide for hours. That mistake quietly ages the blood vessels that carry every other habit to the rest of your body. The fix is 3 small corrections. Room temperature water on waking. Sip steadily through the day, not gulped. Paired with gentle movement so the vessels receive the mechanical signal they need. Optional companions like hibiscus tea and beetroot water can support the routine, but the corrected water habit comes first. Now let me address cautions honestly, because this matters. If you take blood thinners, ask before stacking multiple natural compounds daily. If you take blood pressure medication, monitor when using hibiscus. If you have kidney disease, be careful with high potassium drinks like coconut water. And if you have diabetes, read every label twice. Hidden sugar changes everything for vessel health. This is where people say, but it is natural. Yes, and so is caffeine and poison ivy. Natural does not mean automatic safety. Natural means respect the tool. Here is a simple 7-day experiment. Room temperature water on waking. Sipped through the day, not gulped. Paired with 10 minutes of gentle movement. Do that for 7 days. Notice 3 things. Morning energy, evening swelling, and how your head feels between lunch and dinner. That is where you often feel the difference first. Not in a lab, in life, and I want to ask you something. Which problem bothers you most right now? Cold hands, heavy legs, brain fog, afternoon fatigue, evening swelling. Write just 1 phrase in the comments. That helps me know what to cover next, and it helps other viewers see they are not alone. If this video gave you a clearer plan, press like. That simple action helps more adults over 60 find reliable health education without the nonsense. And if you want the next step, subscribe. Because in the next video I want to show you the morning routines that quietly weaken nitric oxide after 60, even when the rest of your routine looks healthy. One more thing before we close. Independence in later life is not built from one dramatic decision. It is built from small signals your body receives every day. A better temperature of water, a better sipping pattern, a better glass paired with movement. That is how energy returns. That is how movement feels safer. That is how your blood vessels quietly stay younger in a body that is slowly getting older. Plain water still matters, of course it does. But after 60, plain water alone, drunk the wrong way, can quietly age your blood vessels instead of protecting them. The mistake is in how you drink it, not in whether you drink it. The fix is room temperature, sipped through the day, paired with movement. That is the difference between filling the tank and helping the whole system work better. I will see you in the next video.